Good morning, everyone. We are continuing here in the words of the Mesillas Yesharim, and the Ramchal describing so beautifully, as he always does, the finer points of these midas, of these traits. And we're talking about Nikius, which is cleanliness. V'hine, Vadai ki melacha rabbi la adam la'agia l'shleimus hamida hazos. Certainly it's understood, says the Ramchal, that it requires an enormous amount of effort and work in order to reach perfection in this midah, in this trait. And this is why, from here on out, the Mesillas Yesharim, it gets daunting for people because it's so far beyond us sometimes to try to accomplish and to achieve it. And the one thing to keep in mind is we're not looking for each of us to become perfect in these areas. We're trying to expand our mind and our understanding, our hashkafa, our outlook of Jewish life and living, and the way that a Torah Jew and an Oved Hashem, a servant of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, is going to proceed in his lifetime. And that is, we're striving to reach higher levels. We're striving to grow. We're striving to be better today than we were yesterday. We want to look back at the end of a year, as Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur will come upon us, and look back, and we want to be able to pat ourselves on the back and say, Baruch Hashem, look how much I was able to accomplish in the last year of my life. Only if we are expanding our spiritual horizons, only if we're learning Svarim like this, which will show us that there's a whole world of Avodas Hashem that we are, I won't say totally, but that we are quite disconnected from, so that it opens our eyes and allows us to realize, I want to get to that world. I at least want to see it with my eyes. I at least want to enter in. At least let me put one foot inside of there. A little bit of my energies, my activities should be engaged and involved. And therefore, says the Ramchal, yes, it's understood that it comes along with a lot of work. Those averas, those sins that are recognizable and obvious and well known to people, it's easy for a person to guard themselves from those sins. Kevan shirasim goloi, because they're bad, their negative effects is something that is completely revealed to everybody here. I know that eating a cheeseburger is the wrong thing to do. That is a obvious, well-known avera, sin of the Torah. So I'm not going to do that. I know it's obvious that I don't get in a car on Shabbos. That is a well-known sin to people, and therefore I'm not going to get in the car on Shabbos. However, the exactness that a person needs in order to achieve cleanliness, this itself is quite difficult. To remove all the stains and the blemishes and the improper intentions and motives in our mitzvah observance, that is much more difficult. Because once that a person begins to find leniencies in halacha, leniencies in hanhaga, the way that we're going to behave, or in our mitzvah observance, mechasa ala chet, it covers the sins of a person. And therefore, I justify for myself why it is that I'm allowed to do the things that are wrong, especially in the gray areas of life where it's not so clear all the time. Says the Ramchal, and therefore, like I've written above, you have to be very careful in this area. Like our sages have taught us, those sins that a person tramples under his heels, under his feet, he makes light of them, they are going to surround him at the time of judgment. The things that you thought were meaningless, the things that you thought was no big deal, that, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that's what I'm going to get you on at the end. Because you didn't work on cleansing and purifying yourself to the degree and the level that you could have. And he continues, and we'll conclude with these words today, like it says in the Gemara, Rubam b'gazel. Many people are involved in the sin of theft. Umiutam ba'arayas, and only a few are involved in arayas, in the sin of illicit relations. However, v'chulam ba'avak lashon hara, but everybody is engaged in the avera, in the sin of the dust of lashon hara, where a person doesn't speak lashon hara outright, gossip outright, but he does it in a roundabout way that it's pretty obvious to anyone who's listening that he's trying to imply some kind of lashon hara. So since that it's such a fine point over here, it's such a narrow view of what exactly is going to be the prohibition of the dust of lashon hara, people are not careful and they don't cleanse themselves from this sin, and therefore so they will not recognize it, and that's why they will stumble and fall into the sin of the dust of lashon hara. Says the Ramchal, how careful we must be to learn how to examine and to watch over our ways, and where we want to be lenient, where we want to to distance ourselves from certain mitzvahs and performance of avodas Hashem. There, a person needs even more thinking, and he needs to meditate upon these ideas even more to make sure that he's not simply making an excuse to justify his behavior, and therefore he's going to be walking around with the stains of his inability to follow in the pathways of Hashem. Have a wonderful day.